This is Sticky the sheep, and it took me 97 hours to turn her raw fleece into a jumper. And this is how I did it. So Sticky belongs to Farmer Mark. She got her name from sleeping in a molasses bucket as a lamb. Now, Sticky is a Texel or Texel mule, which means that one of her parents was a blue Faced Leicester sheep. I like to wash my raw fleeces before I spin with them. I just find I enjoy the process a little bit more, and I get slightly neater results with washed fibre. Shoo. You can go that way. Go that way. Mushroom crates are a super handy way to dry your fleece. I'm going to wring out as much water as possible and then split it between these two crates. I just so happen to have a really good friend whose husband runs a cafe, so I have a plentiful supply of mushroom crates. When it comes to prepping my fibre, I'm actually a massive fan of flick carding, so I just use a 4-pound dog brush, and the goal here is to separate the fibres, and I'm also removing the tips and the bottom of each lock. These are the little bits that get stuck in the brush that if you were to put this straight through a drum carder would mean you would end up with a quite lumpy bat that's a bit more awkward to spin, so you often find yourself then picking it out when you are spinning. So all of the waste gets trapped in the brush, and as you can see, it's very effective. Now, I would normally just flick card and then spin from the lock, but because I wanted to blend a little bit of brown blue Faced Leicester into the white, just to take the edge off, I'm going to flick card it and then blend it on my drum carder. You can see here all of the fragile tips, and a little bit of extra is trapped in the brush, so it's good to pull these bits out, because it's going to make your life much easier when it comes to spinning. This is some beautiful brown blue Faced Leicester that I had left over from 2 other projects, also from Mark. It has such a long staple and it's super soft, and it is just the perfect shade. So I'm going to flick card this as well, and then we'll blend it together later on my drum carder. To get the perfect shade of oatmeal, I blended 10% of the brown blue Faced Leicester with Sticky's Fleece. It did take me a grand total of 16.5 hours to flick card, drum card and blend 920 grams of fleece. I'm just running the white through first, and then I'll run the brown through, and then I will blend them all together. Now, I bought this drum carder when I first started spinning, mainly because I wanted to spin in the grease and I didn't want to ruin my guild's drum carder. It would be a little bit rude to put a dirty fleece through someone else's carder. But with hindsight, unless I'm blending colours, I really don't use it that often. Don't be put off. I know a lot of spinning equipment is very expensive, and I have been really lucky to get either great second-hand purchases or I've been gifted a lot of kit through my guild as well. You can get away with just doing this with hand carders or even a dog brush, so don't let the cost of equipment put you off. I would highly recommend that you join your local guild. The ladies have a saying that is stash beyond life expectancy, and I have been very grateful to receive both a table loom and my spinning wheel free of charge. 17.5 hours into this project, we have finally reached the spinning stage. This is my old Shetland lace spinning wheel that was given to me by a lovely lady in my guild, and I'm so grateful to have such a piece of history. It did need gluing back together, as you can see. It was riddled with historic woodworm, so it's quite a fragile thing, so I'm super careful if I take it anywhere. I'm often asked about my spinning style. I believe it's some sort of semi-long draw, but I just go with what feels right for me. I haven't been formally taught, but I was really lucky to get a quick lesson when I bought my e-spinner. So I started out on a drop spindle, but I didn't really understand the process or what I was doing, and I definitely didn't fall in love with it straight away. I revisited it a year later when I went to buy the e-spinner, and the lovely lady called Sue, who sold me the e-spinner, gave me a quick demo on long draw, and as soon as I started spinning this way, it's like it all clicked and fell into place. It feels like chewing gum as you pull it out between your hands. That's probably the best description I can give. I do hope that you can take that as a sign that if you have tried spinning before and say it doesn't click or you didn't really enjoy the process, that it might be worth you giving it a second try. It could just be tweaking something or trying a different method that could make you fall in love with it. Now this may be my most used piece of equipment, and I got it for free with a knitter machine about 15 years ago. Now I didn't really understand what it was for until Sue showed me how you could ply from a centre pull ball, which is really handy when you only have one bobbin on your old spinning wheel. So this is my old Ashford e-spinner from, I believe, 2002. This is what Sue sold me and basically sparked my love for spinning. I still use it now to do all my plying. So I spin my singles on my antique wheel. I just feel like I've got a better feel for it on there and my results are a bit neater. And then because the bobbin is so big on this Ashford e-spinner, that I like to ply on here as it's a little bit more efficient. And it means you can wind off some really big hanks. It's taken me 18.5 hours to spin 1,230 metres of 2-ply. So this is actually a little bit thicker than I would spin normally for a project. But because I wanted to knit quite a chunky cable jumper, I went out of my way to ensure it was a little bit heavier than usual. A niddy noddy is a super handy piece of equipment. So you wind off your yarn onto here into a hank, and then that enables you to be able to wash it freely to set your twist. So there's quite a lot of energy in here, and once you soak it in some water with a little bit of soap to make life easier, you'll find all of your fibres relax and just fit into place a little bit better. You could knit straight from this, but you get much nicer results and it's much nicer to work with if you take out some of that energy. I made quite a few errors whilst knitting this jumper. Now, the yarn was nice and chunky, so it did grow really quickly, but I did have to rip the sleeves back 3 times and the back once at the beginning as well because the gauge wasn't quite right. So it came out at a total of 52 hours without the mistakes. So I calculate my knitting time by how long it takes me to do a pattern repeat. So it was 52 hours for the finished jumper, but I've rounded it up to 61 hours in total to account for all of the errors. Now, to people who don't knit, 61 hours sounds like a lot of time, and then to people who do knit, that doesn't sound like a lot of time. But I would like to point out that I am actually only 5'1", so I do have a little bit of a height advantage when it comes to the amount of time it takes me to knit a jumper. This got a lot of attention when I first posted it on social media. I'm using a crochet hook, not to cable, but to pick up my stitches around the sleeve. I just find it much easier. Just make sure you use a crochet hook that is a similar size to your needle size. So I'm picking them up onto the crochet hook and then I'm going to slide it off the back onto my knitting needle. I always wash and block my finished knitwear. It just helps the stitches fall into place, and I think you get a much nicer finish from all of your hard work that way too. So there we have it. It took me 97 hours to turn a raw sheep's fleece into this finished garment, and it is still one of my favourite makes of the whole year. Feel free to leave me any questions in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed watching this process with me. Until next time.